I love how you propel her forward, and she's an ally. You guys are a force to be reckoned with together. And women are powerful, and women sometimes never know that power, and a lot of the times the men are threatened by it, and that's unfortunate because they could have something like this if it was properly nurtured, and that's what a victory looks like, and say something to those boys.
Wow, it's a shame, what I would do, for the dudes that have a girlfriend. One day you'll have a girlfriend, you have a wife, one day you'll have a wife, a boyfriend, whatever the case may be. That advice that young man received, unfortunately, I totally disagree with it. Right. Just like a lot of people in business say, well, you gotta be rough, you gotta be tough, you gotta be hard at that negotiation table. For me, I've been always kind and respectful, and I win 9 out of times in these type of settings.
So here was my issue. When I was younger, I wanted to live the dream life, but whose dream life did I want to live? My name is Valeria Orsini, at Valeria_Orsini on Instagram, and I'll be sharing my own experiences and speaking with others that live a life of excellence about what it actually takes to build your own dream life. My goal is to help you find the confidence to create your own dream life. Dreams are not cookie cutter, neither are you. Welcome to the Dream Life Podcast. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to this episode of the Dream Life Podcast. On today's episode, I have a really special treat for you. I have the $1 billion couple. They not only were able to make 9 figures of their personal network in real estate and outside of real estate in entrepreneurial investments, but they also started off 30 years ago together, 18 years old, you got married?
Yeah.
At 19 years old, they had a baby. At 22 and 19 years old, they started off, and for any of us listening already, that's inspirational, because many of you as young parents, or even you don't even have any kids, and being that age, or even being 30 years old and being so lost, and these people have figured out a formula. So that's why we're here sitting down to listen to them, to the real authentic truth from people that are doing it successfully, authentically. So I found out about you guys, and I just had to interview you guys because I want to know all the secrets, because I want some of this for my life too. So thank you so much. Again, this is Bobby and Sofia Castro. They are the new, they broke into the industry as speakers, but because we need them. So let's get into that. Let's start off with where you guys started off at 18 years old, and you were 21, right?
Yeah, I was, Sophie was 18 and I was 22.
And you guys met in Miami?
In Miami on Lejeune Road.
I love that.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 30 years ago. So we've been married 29 years now, Val, 30 years together, 2 children. Priscilla's 20, she'll be 29. Our son, Brandon, 23. And then our 2 grandchildren. Ocean just turned 4 yesterday,
That's
and Oakley will be
insane.
2 years old now.
Yes.
Well, and you guys, well, of course, I'm sure you hear that all the time. You guys look so young. That's incredible. And your kids are like my age. That's ridiculous. You guys look amazing.
Thank you, thank you.
So
Thank you.
that's an advantage of starting young, no?
Yes, it sure
Yeah.
is.
So what were some of the challenges of starting young?
A lot. We met just from one day to the next. We were married.
How did
Actually,
you guys meet? Okay.
I was working at a phone room at night selling timeshares, reselling timeshares to a lot of Canadians. And Sophie's friend was the secretary of the firm I worked for, and I was running in, and she was running in, Yvette, and she says, hey, I need you to meet my friend. I said, man, I'm running late. I can't do that. And sure enough, about 10 minutes later, she convinced me to go outside, which I'm so blessed that I did. I went out, I ran to the driver's seat. Hey, my name's Bobby, this and that. And it wasn't even Sophie, it was another individual. She wasn't Sophie. And she goes, no, wrong girl. She's on the other side. So I ran around. And as soon as I saw Sophie, she had that rocker hairstyle. You only could see one eye, and she had a big smile. And so
Had that big curly hair, poofy.
I love that.
Yeah.
And we're talking about your heritage. You're Cuban,
Yes.
right? And then what is your background?
my father, he passed at 94 about 5-6 years ago. Puerto Rican. My mother's Jewish and Irish.
That's amazing. What a combination, you
Yes,
two.
I know.
Very fiery. I love it.
Yeah.
So you guys met at this age. So you're again 21. You guys were just starting off.
Yep.
So how did you know that this is like the right woman to start $1 billion company with?
Yeah, it's for me, at least for me, I didn't know that from the get-go.
Right.
My dad had he has 14, 15 children.
Wow.
You know, a few different ladies in his life and all that. And I seen that growing up. So I knew at an early age, you know, and there's a lot of chaos. You can imagine so much personalities involved when you have 14, 15 kids, several different moms involved, a lot of situations going on. A little too much chaos for me where I said, you know, the day I do get married, I'm going to make it work. Because my mom and dad, they stayed married until my dad passed at 94. And I think they stayed married. And my mom hears the podcast a lot, and sometimes she's not happy what she hears. But, you know, I'm here to give value, make sure we don't do this for a living on social media. We're just giving our hearts out to help another Bobby or Sophie. And, you know, I said, the day I get married, man, is the day I'm going to somehow, some way make it work. And when you know, for me, it wasn't the fact that I fell in love with Sophie right there and then when she had that little hair stuff. That's a lot of us say that. Oh, I fell in love right when I saw him. I saw her. It's a great, beautiful thing to say. But you do fall in love as you continue this process. It's no different in business. And I continue falling in love with Sophie every day. We make it work every day. We continue fertilizing it. So I didn't know. You know, I liked her look. I liked the whole Madonna situation that was going on. You know, when
No, but I actually hear about you guys talking about that I heard you talking about fertilizing the relationship and some of the tips that you were giving to some of the girls, because a lot of girls, especially in their 30s now or in their late 20s, they're all like trying to figure out how to get a husband. But not only that did you get one, because a lot of girls can get them, but you've kept them and you guys were able to build an empire. So talk about that fertilizing.
That's super important, I think, in a relationship, and it takes both of you to do it. It can't just come from one side. And I think one thing that we've done right in our relationship has been that and communicating, but we have been always from day one, we've always tried to do everything together in the sense of even business, going out, doing sports, our workout, everything like that. We try to do as much as possible. Of course, we don't do everything together, but we try.
People would think that that's would create like negativity or some type of like too much, but I heard you also mention that some people try to keep their partners out of certain areas of their life, and it creates like a disalignment.
You're not aligned. I mean, if you're in business, like with Sophie and I mean, we started with absolutely nothing. I mean, nothing. And we found out trying to separate business from personal life, it's so hard, you know, so it all has to be aligned. We figured it out, thankfully, sooner than later. We did have our challenges. There's no question about it. There's been many times we almost didn't make it.
Really? I was like, looking at you guys now, I wouldn't think that. Like, what were maybe the first years? What were some of the challenges?
They were so challenging. You know, having no money, we came from, it's very challenging. And then we got married and had a kid very soon. And the reason why we got married so soon, one of them is that he had asked me to get married because he wanted me to move in with him. And I couldn't because I come from a Cuban family. I was 18 years old. There was no way, and I have 4 brothers that. So he asked me to get married right before I even got pregnant. So it wasn't even, and we were like, okay, we'll figure it out. We'll get engaged. And then we had a baby right away by mistake. And it was challenging because we had to figure out now we have another person that we have to worry about and that we have to make sure that we're able to support this child.
A new relationship too. You guys hadn't
we didn't even know each other. We didn't know each other.
You guys were just learning.
We got to really know each other and to have a baby, become father, mother, partner, husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, because we didn't even have a chance to really become boyfriend and girlfriend.
Had to show up in so many areas in your lives, like at the same time too, and really being really young.
Very young, and coming with no money, and our parents had no money, so it was a challenge. But I think that like fertilizing and communicating, we really wanted to make it work, and I guess that's something that both has to want to do in order for it to work. You know,
what would you say, like, in some of those original problems that you guys were having at the beginning, which is really when so many people don't make it. A lot of in those first 2-3 years that maybe you have a good partner, but you always break after those 2 or 3 years. What are some of the things that maybe you guys would think of that kept you together when it really was very convenient to just leave and your friends were telling you to?
You know, I call them little speed bumps. In the first, I think, 7 years, we had our moments like any relationship. But what happens is you have to watch out what you say. So I always talk about don't be so reactive. Don't say something that's just going to stimulate this small little speed bump of a stupid argument just because one is a little moody that day, one's not feeling too good, and that thing can flare up to the point where it leads to separation, leads to just misery. So we started understanding, I personally think, because I've seen it with my mom and dad. I've seen it all my life. And I don't know if I would have been so successful being a husband I am and a father, because my father was great, but as a husband, you have to be willing to make it work. But again, like Sophie says, your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whomever it is, you guys have to, you go in a fight, right?
Right.
Say you go in a fight, a boxing ring.
Yeah.
Your odds to win if you work together versus independently. It's such an edge. So for the ones that are in a relationship, they're married, they have a boyfriend, girlfriend, they have somebody to share life with, you have an amazing edge to succeed. But if you both have this fight, and what's going to happen, some separations from some of your friends.
Right.
Because, life is about forward movement, and it's not about saying, oh, well, I'm not going to speak to her no more. I'm not going to speak to them no more because I'm married, or I have a girlfriend, I have a boyfriend. And it's not about that. It's about constantly growing, because it's called consistency. With Sophie and I didn't constantly work at this like we do every day. We had a little hiccup just recently, I think this week or last week, just a little flare up. But we're so good at it that we just, 20 minutes, you'll be so surprised how it passes. And a lot of people just feed that momentum in that argument that just becomes in a tower. It becomes an inferno.
Well, they say that in your tongue that you have the power to either calm something or
That's right.
to fire it up. So, and I learned that even with my mom, or something, that my mom's answers would calm me, opposed to bring out more of a fire in me. And I think that that's more common in relationships too, because the woman wants to stand her ground, but then so does the man. And at the end of the day, it's not you against me, but coming together as a team is how you guys win.
Yeah.
So I think that mindset is a big shift for a lot of people, because again, they didn't grow up with it, but maybe they didn't analyze it the way that you guys did, and saw that some way you guys had to give and take. It sounds like balance.
I always say one thing: if the fight is not going to get you divorced, don't fight that battle. Just
don't feed it.
Don't feed it. Just sit down, let it relax for a little bit. You analyze it, the partner analyzes, and then go talk about
They
it.
say that you don't feed it, that the dog eventually dies.
That's right.
So, unless if it's something that is very bad and that this is the end,
Right.
don't fight.
So
Just
how do you guys
why?
do that when you guys work together? So let's so you guys work together. You guys had the 2 babies.
Yep.
And how far apart were the children?
5 years.
5
years.
Yeah, they
Okay,
were-
good. So you raised one, you
I
got
couldn't
the
do it,
other
yeah.
one. Okay.
Yep.
That's good. Smart. So then you guys are with your second child. Were you guys already in real estate at this point?
We just started dabbling in it at that
How
time.
did you get into it? Or
Just being, for myself, my parents always rented, mainly into the last phase. They got owner financing through a townhouse. So we always lived in Hialeah when we moved from New York. So I always used to see this landlord situation constantly. There was always a 3-day notice. There was always late pay. So I always loved the fact that this individual is in a better spot than we are. I mean, my gosh, we just paid you the rent and you're back. Are you kidding me? Well, no, it was 30 days ago. So I was always fixated on it, me personally, I think before Sophie was. And it's amazing where she got caught onto it, and we realized instantly that it's a good way to create wealth.
right.
But we didn't have money. But what we did, Val, we investigated the information.
How did you guys do it before? Was it Google? Was there?
No internet.
There was no internet.
It was a library. It was a library. No
Wow.
exaggeration. And any book that said for rentals, for become wealthy in real estate, we would chase it down.
And also just speaking to people, Bobby could talk to anyone even though he doesn't know them.
Right.
He will sit down and have a full-on conversation and gather any information he could get out of a person.
It's the edge.
He'll
That's
check
such
it.
a good quality.
So yes,
Yeah.
and so we started being in real estate, like dabbling in real estate, meeting realtors, and then just asking them, hey, how does this work and how does that work, and learning
And so
by asking.
when you were getting into it, what were some of the things that you were most interested in? Are you still doing what you first started off doing? I doubt it.
So at the very beginning, we were more interested in buying and flipping.
Okay.
We thought that was the way to go. We thought that was the
Right.
way to make the money, and we did 1 or 2, but when we did those, we were like, wait, this is not what we were really wanting, I think we want more of that cash flow and be more of a long-term investor than just buying and flipping. Because that business is a little bit like, it's a roller coaster. There's times that are really good and times that are really bad.
Say, I hear you guys both talk about cash flow, and I already know a little bit about it, but to the people that are listening and watching, tell them a little bit about the difference and why cash flow is so much better.
So cash flow is something that you receive from a property that you own on a monthly basis. So you'll be receiving that as long as you own the property. And then another good thing when you do own a property that you receive cash flow is the IRR, which is, your investment return.
Right.
And that at the end of if you go sell the property, your values are always going to continue to get bigger,
right,
because your rent rolls are coming in. If you're able to increase your rent rolls, the value of your property goes up. So we realized these two formulas that were going to be better than buying a property. You have to invest money in getting it fixed, holding on to a property for a month or maybe a year. You don't know until it sells, and you're having no cash receiving.
Which is awesome that you guys lay it all out on the board, and I see that you guys are actually able to compare and to make these smart choices because you guys are doing your homework and the math. And I feel like a lot of people don't get the right information when they're stepping into something, or a lot of the times we have the money and we just want
to skip that process.
Yeah.
And information is everything. That was the game changer for us. Going back to that cash flow, the reason you want an asset to cash flow, you don't have to force or be under pressure to sell. When it's cash flowing you, there's no reason to sell it. So it's a long-term effect. We didn't realize that. We started looking at assets that we sold, because we said, man, I wish I still own that. But what about if that asset was feeding you throughout that time and growing. So we were forced to sell because we didn't have the information of buying something that cash flows versus buying something like, okay, I could buy for 5 pennies. I think I can sell it for 10 pennies. That's speculation. And we got caught very bad in many cycles because of that, of not having the information, skipping that important part. A lot of people don't have the money, Val, to invest in real estate. And I'm always asked, Bobby, I want to invest in real estate, man. I want to invest, and they don't have enough savings. They don't even have a savings maybe.
Right.
But they're skipping the most important thing to invest in is the information that costs you no money, especially on the internet. That is investing. That is more powerful than actually having the money.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
Yeah, so there's a saying that he always says, stack and rack.
Yes.
And what we try to tell everybody is stacking is your savings account. Put all that money, even if it's $5, whatever it is that you're going to put. And the racking is either buying a property or racking information about what you're going to buy into.
Right.
So that by the time you have it, let's say at the beginning you don't have enough money, but you start saving, and at the same time gather all that information, whether it's apartment buildings, buying and flipping, or investing in a business, in stock market, whatever you're going to do, you need information in order to be able to be successful at it.
And I love you guys develop your own language, because you guys have your own language for sure, and I love that because it's something that sticks. And I was listening to one of your videos, you were talking about how with the stacking and racking, but also making a ton of mistakes in a way that you learn, because the stacking and racking, people aren't taking as much opportunity in every phase that they're in or every level that they're in. So explain a little bit more about that.
Like today's market, and these are all cycles. Real estate, any business is in cycles. Sophie and I were very blessed to have done well in a few different businesses from learning some big, ugly mistakes. And when you don't repeat the big mistakes, you tend to move forward. You're always going to make the small mistakes. That's the only way to learn. But the big mistakes can be a game changer. It means it can knock you out. You'll never come back to life. You're just knocked out in life. Or you're saying, okay, now I know what to do next time. Now I know what not to do. So these cycles are important. And this cycle that we're in right now, this country has never been better in the last 60 years. It is healthy. It is colorful, it is alive. But this is a very frothy market, and I'm seeing a lot of people are going to get themselves caught because they're skipping information about this market we're in. It's not that we're, in trouble, it's just so expensive. How do you buy something that's so expensive? Because in real estate, it's on the buy, Val. It's never on the sell. That's success.
No, and I was also seeing one of the breakdowns that you did, that you were showing as far as all cash, or if you were doing basically half or a quarter of it.
Getting a mortgage on it.
And it
Yeah.
was a huge, it was like a 4% difference.
Yes.
Which, if you don't do the numbers, you would never
Yes,
know.
and
You would automatically assume that cash is better.
Yes, and sometimes that same example works out completely different. Sometimes the property
Wow.
makes no sense to put debt on it,
Right.
and it only makes sense to buy
It's
cash.
based off of so many
It all
different
depends
variables.
on the property, the market. It just depends on a
But just
lot.
like anything, if you don't know what you're doing, you don't have the right information, you're going to be taken advantage of.
Yes.
Because I feel like you could make clothing, you could do anything. and
Absolutely.
You will be taken for a fool.
Absolutely.
And I think that also what you were talking about, that attitude towards making these mistakes and looking at them and not making the same mistakes again.
Yeah.
You also talk about a lot about is it PMA?
PMA, positive mental attitude.
So I would think that that helps with that, no?
Tremendously. I mean, again, growing up, there was a lot of drama in my life. And I left after 9th grade and I started working. My mom got me my first job at Pasquale's on Red Road in Hialeah.
Nice.
I was a takeout and then a busboy. I loved working because, I hate to say it, I didn't want to go back home because it was nothing but a lot of personalities with a lot of passion. And I kept going back home, and I would get kind of down dealing with all this chaos, because when I went back home, when I went to work, I see nothing but beautiful things. Things are being creative, and everybody was happy.
Right.
You know, because when you're trying to serve a customer, you have to be happy in the hospitality work, in the workforce. And then I realized I had to work my way of how to stay positive even when I went back home.
Wow.
And imagine the power of that. How to stay positive being married.
Right.
How to stay positive, you have to get up, go to work out. You have to actually go to work. You actually have to go to your third job. How do you do it? So you have to really, it's almost an obsession. And I think all of us as humans, we have the DNA that we get hooked on something.
Yes.
It could be narcotics. It could be an eating disorder. It could be anything. It's so hard to fight that. You cannot be hooked on something. Mm-hmm. What about getting hooked on creating a better life, creating a better marriage? It's so important to me, my marriage, because it brings, I find joy in it, and it's constantly, man, it's crazy. Sophie and I have no reason to even stay married right now. We're very fortunate to have enough wealth where if we decide to call it quits, here's your 50, my 50, our kids are grown, everyone, and we're together because we want to be together, because we're so obsessed of creating together. And I think that's part of life, is like, how do you live life without creating? How do you give up? Because if you're going to give up on a marriage and you say, I want to meet another Sophie, what's going to be so different about it? She's going to have a different hair color,
No,
different
but that's why
height?
I need more and more and more to fill up this empty void. You know, you can not, for women listening, you could buy as many purses, as much makeup, men, you can have as many
Yeah.
women, as many cars, and you will just want more. And because it's ultimately trying to fill up a void that is not filled up with those kind of things, it's something that is actually much greater than that. Something that you guys have created that affected your community, other lives. It's much bigger than what just you and him, but you guys affect so many lives.
And we work on it, Val. We even hire life coaches. We went to Sedona in Arizona. We climbed a mountain, Camelback Mountain, and we stayed 4 days with a life coach, just like in a setting like this, talking about our life, talking about where we want to be, what's our next chapter, talking about communication. We constantly work on it, just like, I mean, you know, it's just not something, well, it's a magic pill. Wow, they've been married.
Just like having a nice body, just like
gotta-
having a fit body, you go into the gym.
You fertilize it. What you put in, you're going to get out.
Exactly what you get. And a lot of people don't have that attitude when it comes to marriage, or even when it comes to their own personal growth. And I think that I was having this discussion with someone else the other day, and he's a younger guy in the business, and he's growing, and the older guys in the business kept telling him, like, oh, don't get married, and no, my wife just wants to take all my money, and all the divorce and all this stuff. And they all had in his head, he was telling me that he doesn't want to get married.
Wow.
And that these people that he really admires, that they're giving him this kind of advice. And I was like, I'm sorry that you think that way, or that you heard that. But I told him that those guys failed at picking the right spouse, or failed at maintaining that marriage. It was a failure. And in reality, they just make it seem like it's impossible, that men have to have different partners, when a woman inside knows that she could totally be loyal to her husband.
It's a shame.
And it's not, but then but they'll believe that because it's just like the society, or just we've always been in the way a weaker sex. And I love just because of the way our history has been. But I love how you propel her forward, and you know, she's an ally. You guys are a force to be reckoned with together. And women are powerful, and women sometimes never know that power, and a lot of the times the men are threatened by it, and that's unfortunate because they could have something like this if it was properly nurtured, and that's what a victory looks like, you know. And say something to those
wow,
boys.
it's a shame, you know. What
really
I
is.
would do, you know, for the dudes that have a girlfriend, one day you'll have a girlfriend, you have a wife, one day you'll have a wife, a boyfriend, whatever the case may be. That advice that young man received, unfortunately, I totally disagree with it. Right. Just like a lot of people in business say, well, you gotta be rough, you gotta be tough, I mean, you gotta be hard at that negotiation table. For me, I've been always kind and respectful, and I win 9 out of times in these type of settings. And for anyone to tell any young person, just because my marriage failed, don't marry. Well, that's like if you bought a real estate investment and it failed, what went wrong? But are you going to buy another one? Yeah, but why wouldn't that apply to that same concept?
Right.
Why would, so I think you gotta watch what the information's out there, because what you're listening to, you know, this is the problem I have sometimes with information of how sincere, how honest, is it really with good intentions? Because it makes no sense to me saying, because my marriage failed, oh, Bobby, don't get married. You'll be a fool to get married. I'll go out. Yeah. That's crazy.
No, you were talking about that. It's talking about misinformation, and also that once the information no longer serves you, like let's say you've been, someone heard something like that, they started acting on it, and it's not working for them, but getting rid of information that no longer.
Yeah, I think that what happens is that today's, I think society in general, because even my father's era was this way too. Men feel like they need to be the empowered one, like they need to be the business. Men, they have to bring in the money, and they want their wife to just sit back, be that mother, be, you know, secondhand, so that they could have the main power in the house, right? But if they would only try doing what Bobby and myself have done, like, and again, we work at it every day, like we say, but if they only try to say, you know what, I'm gonna try to be my wife's friend, I'm gonna try to make my wife part of my business, and that doesn't mean that she needs to work with you, right? But part of the business, meaning when you get home or on a weekend or whenever, you know, talk to each other about what's going on in the business world, what's going on in your personal world, what you're doing, and involve each other in each other's world, like in a whole. It becomes so nice, and it becomes like, oh my God, this is so nice. I have somebody to talk to, whether it's a good thing, which is a bad thing. It doesn't matter what it's about. But if you kind of, a guy goes, I'm the business guy. You know what? My wife doesn't need to know what's happening in business, right? So she's not going to know nothing about it. Then you come in, you're in a bad mood. A business deal goes bad. She has no clue. So you guys have no connection now. So now you feel like, okay, no, I just need to go out and go have a drink with the guy from work. You know,
that creates isolation, separation.
And exactly.
And
so
it creates like a distorted image.
And just
of
like
what's
some
going
couples
on.
like to have their own checking account. You have yours, I have mine. You pay this bill, I pay that bill. That brings separation in a marriage.
Absolutely.
You know.
And don't you feel like it's a lack of trust?
It's a lack of trust. It's a lack of communication. It's a lack of everything. So I think that those kind of people in a relationship like that, if they try to do the opposite, the change in a relationship, it's so different. Because to me, I consider him like my friend. I could go to Bobby for anything, like whether it's good. Like we said the other day, we communicate even with bad things. I don't like this. I don't like the way this is going. You know, it doesn't mean that you have to communicate about just all pretty and nice things. You have to, you know, treat your relationship like a friendship, and it would work so much better.
No, and I think that even the approach is as to the relationship and in business, and just being kind and having empathy for other people and just being a good person, it takes you so far. I think that even for myself, I wasn't always the prettiest or the tallest or the best in my modeling career, but always because I had the right attitude to show up, and more so that I wanted to help, that I would try to add value to help whatever I can do to help you. That's what had me continuing to come back and continuing to grow. I wasn't better than everybody else. I just kind of tried more in certain areas. And I feel like you guys have provided so much value to each other, and you guys continue to try to do that still day in and day out. And I feel like a lot of sometimes I've heard friends say things like that they don't see their woman as like a businesswoman, or they don't see things like that. But giving certain responsibilities or also teaching, and there's a beautiful thing in sharing those kinds of things. And I think that also that creates that separation, like, oh, she doesn't understand or he doesn't understand. And also women don't share some of our things with the guys, and we don't have good communication either. But you guys have done that in your home, in business. You guys work out together as well. I know you guys just did like 2 months of traveling and all of that. So how did you guys become from these kids, to living the dream and, and accomplishing this and selling your business and all of that? So let's fast forward to the real estate. You guys are thriving now. You guys are killing it. So what are some of the mistakes that you made, you think, when you were
big
prime?
Overpaying.
Oh, okay, that's a good one.
Overleveraging. And by making those 2 big mistakes, it was simply because we didn't swim into information to prevent those mistakes. And it's so hard now, Val, that in 2020, a lot of young people want instant gratification. They more than ever want to skip that process because technology gives you instant information, and there's nothing you can't find on Google. I see all these beautiful people spending a lot of money on masterminds, retreats, packages, seminars, events, take me to the moon, but it's all on Google. But I wish I had Google. I would have been billions. I mean, I'm a junkie for bona fide information that has good motives, no bad intentions, and man, if everyone just slows down, stop getting distracted, start respecting your non-refundable minutes, stop getting some people out of your lives in a good way, meaning I just need some distance, give me 2 feet. And so I allow me to be accountable for my own actions, allow me to really get serious and say, I am completely broke, I have one job, I complain and I whine, I am responsible for my outcome. I'm the only one that's going to get me out of this situation, and that means I need to clear the lane so I can see the lane.
Non-refundable minutes. This, when I heard your guys' video, I was like, wow. Because we do have people in our lives that we really love, that we care about, and we do give them a lot of time that we have no return on our investments. So I want, to explain that psychology that you have or that you developed, that is the non-refundable minute.
I'll go back to, for example, my family. Because I'm being so transparent here, because Sophie and I really care about so many people. We're doing this out of our heart.
I know.
We don't charge nothing. We're just doing this in a moment of time because it's a way of giving back like we do for charities and other things. And we're realizing this information is so important if we can touch 1, 2, or many lives. And my family, for example, family is such a sensitive topic. Everyone has the same situation that I did. There's a lot of drama, a lot of chaos, a lot of passion, I call it. That can really drain you physically and mentally. Just with family alone, by getting some distance from some of your family members that are consuming so much of your energy, and you're giving back the energy, and this momentum's building that's going nowhere, just that one thing, when I separate a little bit from my family, and I love my family, a lot of them work for me, but at the moment I needed some space, and I needed to really completely separate myself from the environment and surroundings, because if not, I would never get new information, because we all had the same friggin' information and we're all stuck. So what do you do to get unstuck? You got to actually eject out.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's some people that drain you, and there's other that give you value.
Now, I love my family, so I know all of you watching, and you've been watching all these podcasts. I love you, but I'm saying the truth.
It's just some of them do drain you, others don't.
Right.
So, the ones that drain you, and you see that they're getting in your way, and they're giving you either negative information or not believing in you, and you feel that that's stopping you from going forward.
Or because they're frustrating in life too.
Those
so
are
they're
the
just
ones.
They even have small mindsets sometimes. Sometimes you talk to your friends and they're not the right person to be speaking to. You need to be speaking to somebody that is living the life that you want to live, to give you the proper advice. Oftentimes we turn to our friends and they're probably worse off than us sometimes, and then we're looking for an answer from them. When really, it's just, we need people that we can model our careers after, model our marriages after, and that have real success, that it's authentic. So I love that you guys are on my show.
It's a lonely world too, Val. A lot of people may have an issue where a lot of people don't want to be lonely. It's just Sophie and I.
That's true.
We don't have many friends. We have very close friends, but we are so busy. We're now all about a legacy for our grandchildren. So it's a whole different game. It's a whole different level. And so sometimes you're not going to have many friends to be preoccupied. And that was a big thing for Sophie and I when we first got together as boyfriend girlfriend. She had an army of friends, and I was ready. I was looking and searching. So that was one hiccup that we almost didn't get past because she wasn't ready to separate, and I knew we were off for a battle. And
It's tough because we hold on to certain things that necessarily maybe they were good for us, or maybe they served the season, but sometimes they don't cross into the next season. And sometimes there can be certain heartbreaks and breakups with even friends and things like that can be toxic or just not beneficial. And sometimes people aren't going where you're going. And I learned a while ago that some people, you need to stay on rhythm in life and this game. You need to stay on track, and anything that kind of stops you, that gets you off rhythm. And there's some people that are at a completely different pace.
And some of those people, I want to really say, most of those people are beautiful people, but they're maybe frustrated. They're in a tight spot. You're in a tight spot, so there's a lot of nothing going on.
Right.
So non-refundable minutes, just imagine this. I'm spending my non-refundable minutes on my friend.
Right.
She or he spending their non-refundable minutes on me. And nothing's getting done other than us complaining and about the situation. So when I say you got to separate yourself from people, these people are not bad people. No. You just need to get your crap together. And in order to get it together, you have to pretty much be by yourself because you're accountable for your own action. Yeah. So you're just saying a timeout for now.
Right. And also getting that new information.
That's all.
Because also some of the brain stuff that I love, that I learned, that 89% of our thoughts, we have these same thoughts every day. Yep. So we need to continue to put in this new information daily to try to have a different mindset. Because a lot of times when we wake up in the morning and we have these thoughts, the thoughts are memories, and they're all related to past traumas or past feelings, and our body doesn't know the difference. But we really need to make an effort to be sponges and absorb this new information. And also by listening, by modeling your life, reading, it's just like pumping in all this new information. I feel like that is such a big key. Even listening to you guys, it was just all your biggest key is information and being willing to work.
Because if you have so many things going on in your day, it's all hidden in your subconscious mind. That sooner or later is going to get out consciously. So if you limit all this other distraction and just focus on some good energy, some good things that are going to put you forward, you have more chances to succeed because you're processing more things that's for the target, not distraction of what's going on with Benny and the divorce or whatever the case may be.
And when you guys were having children, was that obviously that's a new challenge for you guys? How did you guys balance having small children and the business, or even now as grandparents and trying to balance family and still be this billion-dollar couple?
Yeah, that was very tough at the very beginning, especially for me, because obviously I had more of the responsibilities from the babies and so forth. But that's something that Bobby's always taught me, is balancing out your time and managing your time and making sure that you know where your focus is and where you're going. Right. So knowing that where we wanted to go just made it easier because I said, okay, I'm going to have to give up something with the kids at whatever time, but I want to get here, and it's going to be for their good too. So at the very beginning, it's a difficult part to handle because we had nothing. We were building to get there. Right. So Bobby struggled more with the kids because he had to really let go of the kids a lot when the babies were little.
And I know that your family also helped your mom. You were saying that
my
she also
mom
helped
was
you.
a great help for me until.
Little angel.
Yes, she was awesome with Priscilla. Awesome. She was amazing with Priscilla. But it's a matter of being focused. You can't let those times bring you down and just say, I'm throwing the towel in, this is too hard. We were discussing this before. It's easier to give up than to move forward and try to get up the ladder.
Yeah, because a lot of people never take the attempt to try because you won't know the result of what if you fail. You know,
Yeah.
this is my dream. I'm going to take the shot at it. It's just so much easier to just be like, oh yeah, I'll do that one day, or to never even take the chance because you don't want to fail. But then again, you get this massive action, or you
That's
go
right.
through all these failures and you end up learning. And I'm sure you guys have so many failures.
There's never a ceiling, Val. There's never a ceiling in life. There's never a ceiling in your marriage, your relationship. If you start,
Wow. I love
just
that.
imagine how powerful that is. There's no ceiling to nothing in life. It's a total value add. If you feed it in a good way, it shall grow.
Right.
If you feed it in a bad way, it shall not grow. It'll go reverse on you. And there's nothing better if you're in a relationship.
Yes.
You have a life partner, which is more important than a business partner. I can't emphasize what I just said. A life partner, there's no one you can trust more than your life partner. Even if you got married 6 months ago and you're still having a little burp about it because it's not working out, that is your life partner. So that means if you're gonna go in business with me, and you're gonna have, what's not to say you're gonna have a problem with me?
Right.
Is the problem you?
Right. And can you work through your issues? Can you work through your problems? Are you good at regulating?
Are you
or
willing to surrender to that?
co-regulating? Yeah, absolutely.
Marriage is a lot of work, a lot of work. Even at the beginning, all the way to the end. It doesn't matter. It's a lot
But
of
that's
work.
success.
But it's
Relationships,
But if
business.
you work at it, just like you put into
true.
working out or a business, and you work at your marriage, it's the best thing. It's the best reward. I would not change it. Everybody asks me, would you change, being married at 19 or having a kid? I'm like, no,
Right.
I would never. I have nothing to change. To me, it's been amazing. Even that we started that young, struggled. We did it all. But it was something that gave us a lot of personal growth.
Yeah.
You
How
know.
beautiful that you guys were able to build that together too, and to have like this empire together, because a lot of the times people just want to skip the line and they just want to just be in the empire already, and they just want to be with somebody who already has done all the work for them. So I think that that's also a big lesson as well. Certain women, maybe they want a guy like him or they want a wife like her, but it took a lot of work and not giving up. And I think that people just want to skip the line. They just want it like instant gratification. They want the perfect wife, the perfect girlfriend, and have no work towards it, or the perfect business. And I love that it's coming from you guys, because you guys are obviously living it. You guys have achieved it. And so many people are just speculating, just giving advice based off of lives that they haven't really
You got to
lived.
be about long term. You create wealth in long term periods. You don't create them short periods. Your marriage, your relationship, let it grow, but you got to feed it. Sophie, I am the person I am today